The Varaltiran moon palace loomed like a glass dagger above the ocean mists, its spires glinting with bioluminescent runes as Jace Moran stepped off the transport ramp. A welcome party stood waiting, 3 guards in ceremonial armor and a pale woman draped in layered silver robes. No smiles. No greetings. Just protocol. Jace adjusted the cuffs of his black coalition jacket, wondering again why he had agreed to this farce. He wasn't a diplomat anymore. He wasn't a pawn. At least, that's what he told himself before Earth's High Command signed him away in exchange for a treaty. This way, said the robed woman, her voice sharp and toneless. No names. Just orders. The palace interior shimmered with cold opulence. Crystalline pillars twisted into impossible shapes, and flower-like chandeliers hovered in midair, responding to the emotions of those beneath them. Jace's flickered red. He was escorted to a private chamber, a massive circular room with domed ceilings, a canopy bed, and walls that pulsed with ambient moonlight. The woman gestured for him to wait. Jace sat, leaning forward, hands clasped. A soldier's posture, even now. He didn't know what his bride looked like. He hadn't been told her name until the contract was signed. Alinea Velentris. That was it. Her mother, the notorious Lady Sivara, wanted him only for one thing: genetics. Footsteps approached. A hush fell over the corridor. The door parted. She stepped in. Alinea was striking, not in the artificial perfection common among nobles, but in a quiet, haunted way. Green-skinned like all Varaltirans, she had long silver-white hair cascading down her back and golden eyes that refused to meet his. Her frame was slender, almost fragile, but her chin held a flicker of defiance. She wore no gown, only a thin white robe. Her shoulders were stiff, her hands folded tightly before her. "You're the human," she said without inflection. "You're the woman I'm supposed to make a future with," Jace replied evenly. Her gaze flicked to his, and for a brief moment, he saw it, fear wrapped in bitterness. Then it was gone. "The ceremony is complete," she said. "Our bond is registered. The room is sealed for the next cycle." "You mean we're locked in?" "It is tradition." Jace scoffed. "So this is how your people solve fertility problems: lock 2 strangers in a room and hope biology does the rest?" She flinched, barely, but said nothing. Silence hung heavy between them. Alinea crossed the room to the far wall and stood with her back to him, arms crossed over her chest. "I'm not going to touch you," Jace said at last. "If you think I'm here to force something, you're mistaken." That surprised her. She turned, slowly, then studied him with cautious eyes. "You don't want the alliance." "I don't want to be livestock," he said. "And I don't trust deals that involve cages." A pause. Then something almost like amusement crossed her face. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly. "Neither are you. I was told you were proud, demanding. A noble. I was told you were obedient." They stared at each other. He sat back against the curved couch, resting one boot on his knee. "Let's make something clear. I didn't sign up to be your savior. If you want to be rid of me after this moon cycle, I'll be the first to volunteer." She hesitated, then moved to sit, carefully, on the edge of the chaise across from him. Her hands trembled slightly, but she controlled them. For the first time, she looked directly at him. "Do you know why I'm here?" she asked. "I assume because your mother wants heirs." "My mother wants control. A perfect bloodline. But I'm not perfect." Her voice dropped. "They told me I was barren at birth. I was defective." Jace didn't flinch. "So this is a last-ditch experiment?" "Yes. And how do you feel about being forced into it?" Alinea's expression darkened. "I don't feel." "That's easier." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Jace stood and walked to the window. Beyond the glass, glowing ocean waves crashed softly against the moon's floating cliffside. He could see his reflection, the tight line of his jaw, the fatigue behind his eyes. "You know," he said without turning, "where I come from, people fight for the right to love. They run into bullets for it. Burn governments for it. And here," she said from behind him, "we bury it." He turned to face her again. "If you really don't want this, say the word. I'll tell Earth the bond broke. I'll take the fallout." Alinea rose, stepped closer. Her gold eyes searched his face. "I thought you'd be like the others," she said. "Ruthless. Hungry. I didn't expect decency." "Well," Jace said, voice low, "I didn't expect a prisoner either." Her gaze dropped, and for the first time, the composure cracked. Not visibly, but enough. A tremble in her breath. She stepped back. "You should sleep," she said. "The cycle ends in 6 hours." "Right," Jace murmured. "Wouldn't want to miss our chance to disappoint your mother." She paused in the doorway to the adjoining chamber, hand on the frame. "Don't assume my silence is weakness, human. I survived worse than you." He nodded. "And don't assume my kindness is surrender. I've survived worse than you, too." Her expression flickered an almost smile, then gone. The door closed softly. Jace exhaled. The room pulsed gently, shifting from red to a curious shade of pale blue. Somewhere above, Lady Sivara likely waited, expecting a report. But down here, behind sealed doors, 2 strangers sat in silence, both used, both wounded. And something unspoken began to stir in that space between anger and understanding. Then, from behind the wall, he heard her voice. Barely audible. "Don't touch me. You'll only hate me when you know the truth." He stared at the ceiling, frowning. The game had just begun. And nothing was what it seemed. The room was still. Moonlight shifted across the floor in thin, glowing strands. Jace had spent the night wide awake on the edge of the bed, not touching the covers. Alinia hadn't emerged from the adjoining chamber since she closed the door hours ago. He didn't blame her. He sat at the breakfast table, poking at some alien variation of fruit, green and pulpy, when the door finally opened. Alinia stepped in, wrapped in a flowing slate-blue robe, hair tied back tight. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes lingered on him a second longer than necessary. "I didn't expect you to stay," she said flatly. "I don't walk out on people who whisper like that," he replied without turning. She blinked. "What?" "Last night. Through the wall. You'll only hate me when you know the truth. I don't forget words like those." She moved slowly to the table and sat across from him, resting her hands in her lap. "I wasn't talking to you." "Sure you weren't." He picked up a piece of the fruit and bit into it. "You know, for a noble society so obsessed with control, you're all terrible liars." Alinia didn't respond. But her hands clenched together beneath the table. Jace swallowed. "Look, you don't owe me anything. Least of all explanations. But I'm not the enemy. I didn't choose this." She glanced up. "Neither did I." Silence stretched between them. The fruit on her plate remained untouched. Finally, she exhaled. "Do you want to know the truth?" Jace leaned back. "Only if you want to tell it." She looked down at her hands, voice low. "When I was 17, I fell in love with someone from a lower caste. A researcher. Brilliant. Kind. I wanted to marry him. My mother forbade it. Said my body was sacred. That mixing with a lesser bloodline would dilute generations. And I defied her. Once. Just once. I went to him. That night, she had him arrested for gene tampering. Fabricated charges. He disappeared. And me. I was taken to a medical center." Her voice faltered, just for a second. "They told me it was a precaution. That my blood needed to be corrected, made sterile until further tests could be done." Jace's eyes narrowed. "She sterilized you." "She altered my reproductive genes without consent. It was masked under protocol. I didn't know until years later. I tried to conceive during arranged trials. Nothing. No fertilization. No results. Finally, one doctor told me the truth off record. She made me infertile. On purpose." He sat very still. The glow of the palace walls pulsed softly around them, as if responding to the words. "She did it to erase my shame," Alinia said, voice hollow. "To ensure I could never carry a disgrace. And then," Jace said, "she offered your hand to a human. A political move disguised as scientific outreach. She hoped you'd activate some dormant compatibility. That Earth's genes could rewrite what she broke." Her mouth curled in a bitter half-smile. I was a test subject in a royal gown. Jace leaned forward. You ever consider telling her no? I did. Once. She threatened to revoke my caste, exile me to the Outlands. Here, that's a death sentence. So you stayed. I endured. He stared at her. Not as a noble, or an alien. Just a person, trapped, wounded, surviving. That's not weakness, he said. That's strength. Her eyes flicked to his. There was something unguarded now. Not warmth, but a thaw. He stood, moving to the window again. The view hadn't changed. But something inside him had. I lost someone, too, he said quietly. Earthside. During the last orbital conflict. She was a soldier. Smarter than me. Braver too. We were engaged. I came back. She didn't. Alinia tilted her head. How? Ambush. Intel failure. She tried to save a squad trapped in a blast zone. She never made it back. A long pause. She believed in doing the right thing. Even if it killed her. He looked at Alinia. Now I get sent to make peace with people who don't know what sacrifice even means. I know, she said. More than you think. Something shifted between them then, stillness giving way to something softer. He turned back toward the table. You said you've never had results with any partner. But last night, you felt something. She hesitated. Then nodded. My body reacted. For the first time. Not pain. Not rejection. It felt different. Yes. Do you think it means something? I don't know. Her fingers brushed her stomach, unconsciously. But I haven't slept. My pulse is elevated. My sensory awareness is fluctuating. Could be stress. Or something else. They both stood in silence. Outside, the ocean shifted under pale light. I'll stay, Jace said. For the cycle. But only because I want answers. She looked up. You don't want to escape anymore? I still don't want to be someone's science project. But I'm not leaving you alone in this. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You don't know what that means to me. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough to see the way her eyes shimmered in the light. You survived your mother, he said. That means you're stronger than her. She won't stop, Alinia said. Not until she controls everything. Then we don't let her. Something beeped softly from the far wall, a pulse from the genetic monitor panel embedded in the palace systems. Alinia turned, scanned the readout. Her skin paled. What is it? Jace asked, crossing to her side. She touched the panel, hands shaking. Hormonal indicators. Spikes. Cellular growth. Metabolic rise. In plain language. She turned to him, trembling. I think I'm pregnant. His heart stopped. But you said. I know what I said, she whispered. This shouldn't be possible. They stared at each other, the silence stretching wider than the ocean. Finally, Jace broke it. Then either your body healed itself. Or yours healed mine. The chamber doors burst open before either of them could speak. Lady Sivara strode in, flanked by 2 guards and a hovering medical drone. Her robes were a storm of black and platinum, embroidered with symbols of rank and scientific authority. Her expression, as always, was carved from polished stone. Alinia stepped instinctively in front of the genetic panel, shielding the data display. But it was too late. The drone had already connected and downloaded the scan logs. I sensed a spike in the biometric grid, Sivara said coldly, eyes flicking between her daughter and Jace. Explain it. Jace stepped forward. No one called you. You're not permitted to raise your voice in my house, she snapped, not looking at him. Alinia, what did you do? Alinia stood her ground, arms tight at her sides. I didn't do anything. My body responded. For the first time in years. Sivara's nostrils flared. You said you were sterile. You made me sterile. I preserved our legacy. No, Alinia said, her voice steady but rising. You mutilated it. The guards shifted uncomfortably. The tension in the room was suffocating. Jace folded his arms. She's pregnant. Your grandchild. You should be celebrating. Sivara's eyes locked onto him now, sharp and dissecting. And how can we be certain it's Vareltiran? Jace's fists clenched. That child is as much hers as it is mine. And you don't get to erase it just because it doesn't fit your model. This isn't about models. This is about preservation. Our genome cannot be diluted by unchecked variables. Your species is incompatible. Clearly not. She turned to the drone. Run a level 4 sequence. I want full chromosomal breakdown. No, Alinea said sharply. Sivara blinked. I said no, Alinea repeated. I won't let you dissect this like one of your failed experiments. The room went dead silent. Sivara stepped forward, face inches from her daughters. You are not in control here. Alinea didn't flinch. Neither are you. The drone chirped with completion. A holodisplay flickered between them. Strands of data unraveled, color-coded, labeled, spinning through generations of code. In the center, a new sequence pulsed in gold, hybridized, healthy, viable. Sivara's breath caught. She tried to hide it, but Jace saw it, the crack in the armor. Impossible, she muttered. Yet here it is, Alinea said. Real. Alive. And unaltered by your hand. Jace stepped beside her, letting his presence add weight. You wanted obedience. You got life instead. Sivara's voice dropped into a hiss. You think this changes anything? You think one fluke makes you strong? No, Alinea said, looking into her mother's eyes. But it made me free. The guards looked to Sivara for command. She waved them off, storming from the chamber, her gown sweeping behind her like the end of a storm. The door slammed shut. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Alinea's knees gave out, and she collapsed into a nearby chair. Jace knelt beside her. You okay? I don't know, she whispered. I've never told her no before. You just did. And you didn't break. She looked at him, truly looked eyes wide, raw, alive. I was always told I couldn't feel deeply. That I wasn't capable of passion. That my biology rejected intimacy. I guess they were wrong. Her fingers reached for his, tentative. He didn't pull away. I don't know what this means, she said. He leaned closer. It means we're not alone anymore. A beat passed. Then she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't protocol. It wasn't political. It was desperate, clumsy, real. He didn't hesitate. Her hands gripped his shoulders as he pulled her close, her breath catching against his lips. Years of isolation, of silence and shame, broke apart in that single moment. She trembled, and he held her, grounding her. When she finally pulled away, her forehead rested against his. I've spent my whole life apologizing for existing, she whispered. Then stop. Because you just gave the universe something it said couldn't happen. Outside, alarms began to blare. They separated instantly. Jace rose, moving to the console. Security breach. No, Alinea said, checking the signal. A high-priority council summons. My mother must have alerted them. He stared at the code. What are they going to do? Summon a tribunal. They'll claim genetic violation of royal integrity. Try to erase the data, the child, maybe even me. Not if I get to them first. You'll be arrested. Then they'll learn something else about humans, he said, reaching for his sidearm and slipping it into his coat. We protect our own. She rose slowly. And if they declare the child invalid? Then we fight. Together. The door hissed open again, but this time, no one stood behind it. Only the echo of footsteps down the corridor, and the future calling ahead. Alinea turned to him, hands resting lightly on her stomach. Are you sure? He looked at her, really looked. Not as royalty. Not as alien. Just a woman, finally allowed to live. I've never been more sure of anything. She nodded once, and they stepped into the light. Behind them, the monitor still glowed gold. Not just viable. Thriving. The Grand Council chamber felt colder than any battlefield Jace had ever stood on. Massive stone columns twisted into spirals around the chamber's edges, pulsing faintly with silver veins of biocircuitry. A dozen elder Vareltiran nobles sat along a crescent bench, their eyes shimmering with cold judgment. Lady Savara stood before them, poised, composed, unbent. Alinea stood beside Jace, her hand resting just over her abdomen. No veil, no pretense. She wore her truth openly, daring them to speak against it. The High Counselor, a gnarled male with eyes like pressed steel, gestured for silence. "We are convened under urgent petition from Matriarch Savara of House Velentris," he announced. "Charges: genetic contamination, unauthorized hybrid gestation, and violation of hereditary protocols." "Contamination?" Jace snapped. "Is that what you call life now?" Several nobles shifted uncomfortably. The High Counselor ignored him. Savara's voice rang sharp. "The union between my daughter and the human was authorized solely under the assumption of permanent infertility. This pregnancy was neither expected nor biologically permitted. It poses a threat to the integrity of Vareltiran succession." Alinea's voice cut in. "No. It threatens your control. Not our people." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Savara glared. "Alinea, you have no idea what you're defending. That child could upend centuries of order." Alinea stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time that order was broken." The chamber went still. Jace raised a holopad. "The genetic scans from your own palace show the fetus is healthy. Viable. A perfect fusion of human and Vareltiran DNA. What you called impossible now exists. You can't erase that." "Those results could be tampered with," Savara hissed. "They came from your own drone," Alinea snapped. "Don't insult the Council's intelligence." The High Counselor narrowed his eyes. "Is the child's paternity confirmed?" Jace held his ground. "I'll submit to any verification process you require. I have nothing to hide." A smaller noble leaned forward. "And what do you intend to do with this child?" Jace looked at Alinea. "Raise it. Protect it. As parents, not political pawns." The chamber murmured. Savara's jaw tightened. "This was not about love," she said. "It was about strategic necessity. Now it's a scandal." Alinea turned to face her. "You never wanted a daughter. You wanted a legacy you could mold. But I'm not yours to command anymore." Savara took a step back as if struck. The High Counselor raised a hand. "This child represents a genetic event unseen in over a millennium. It challenges long-standing assumptions, but it does not warrant erasure." Savara's voice sharpened. "If you let this child live, it sets a precedent. It opens the floodgates." Alinea faced the council now. "Then let them open. Let us stop pretending our bloodlines haven't been decaying under our own arrogance. You wanted purity, but it's killing us." Silence. Then, slowly, one elder stood. A woman draped in faded green, her voice gravel-soft. "She's right. We've preserved too much and evolved too little. Perhaps this child is not our end, but our beginning." More murmurs. Heads nodding. The tide was shifting. Savara looked around, panic breaking through the cracks. "You would let this defy centuries of order?" Jace stepped beside Alinea. "You called me compliant. But you never understood humans. We don't submit, we adapt. We endure. And we don't abandon our children." The Counselor rose. "Then hear the ruling of the Grand Council." Everyone fell silent. "The child shall be recognized as a new lineage under both House Velentris and Earth's coalition. No punishment shall be brought upon the parents. Genetic data will be preserved under sealed archives, and no further forced pairings shall be conducted without dual consent." Alinea's breath left her like a broken dam. She gripped Jace's hand tightly. Savara stood frozen. "But You are dismissed, Matriarch," the High Counselor said. And just like that, the throne behind her, her symbol of control, faded into shadow. The moonlight bathed the palace balcony in cool blues as Jace and Alinea stood alone. She leaned against him, face tilted up to the stars. "I thought I'd feel afraid. But I don't. I feel alive," he said. She nodded. "Like I'm finally breathing." Jace looked down at her. "You saved more than yourself in there. You changed everything." She turned to him, voice low. "I'm still scared, you know. Of failing. Of being a mother. Of what comes next." He brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. You won't do it alone. She smiled, small, but real. Then, from the shadows of the hall behind them, soft footsteps. Sivara. Her robes were gone. She wore no insignia, no crown. I didn't come to fight, she said quietly. I came to see. Alinia didn't speak. Sivara approached slowly, her eyes locked on her daughter's stomach. I did terrible things. I told myself it was for survival. That if we didn't control every variable, our people would vanish. Jace stepped in front of Alinia slightly. I don't need your apology, Alinia said softly. I'm not giving one, Sivara replied. But I wanted to know if it was true. Alinia let go of Jace's hand and stepped forward. Touch it, she whispered. Sivara hesitated. Then, with trembling fingers, she reached out and pressed her palm gently to her daughter's belly. A glow pulsed faintly under her hand. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. It's real, she whispered. Alinia nodded. And you can't control it. No, Sivara said. But maybe I can protect it. Jace raised an eyebrow. From afar, she added quickly. I won't be the one who breaks her. Or him. Whatever the child chooses. Alinia looked at her mother, truly saw her, for the first time. Then don't start now. Sivara turned and walked away. Her steps were slow, but her spine was no longer rigid. Just tired. Alinia leaned back into Jace. What now? She whispered. He looked up at the stars above Vareltira. Now, he said. We raise a miracle.